What's it, class? Welcome to our 5th weekly learning video. I hope that you're all doing well and that you enjoyed the half-term break. Today, we will of course be carrying on with our Roman learning journey. If you remember last time, we looked at Caesar and how sadly for him, he failed to conquer Britain. Today, we're going to be learning about the Roman emperor who did manage to conquer Britain. Let's begin. Last week, we learnt about Julius Caesar's attempted invasions of Britain. He landed on the coast, but was chased off by Britons with spears and a large storm. Then he invaded again, with more success. He fought a large army at a river and bewildered them with an elephant, and then he sieged a castle. After hearing about troubles in France, he had to rush off, and Caesar accepted that he would never conquer Britain. Many years passed, and the Britons were left in peace. However, the Romans kept making plans to invade Britain. Several emperors prepared armies to invade, but then cancelled their invasions for unknown reasons. In 40 AD, 95 years after Caesar had tried to invade, the emperor Caligula prepared an army to conquer Britain, but a legend says that upon arriving at the coast of France, his men decided that they were too scared of the sea to sail across. Apparently, Caligula ordered his soldiers to stab at the waves with their swords and to collect seashells. Perhaps this was supposed to make his men feel better about being scared. If there were any Britons watching Caligula and his men collecting seashells on that day, then they would probably have thought, "Oh, what a nice bunch of blokes. Perhaps we can show them our cool collection of seashells." But that was not the case. Caligula was a brutal man who had already killed most of his family members, apart from his uncle. After collecting seashells in France, he returned to Rome, where he was murdered by those he trusted most, in a similar way to Julius Caesar. In 43 AD, Caligula's uncle, Claudius, became emperor, and he prepared the Roman army to attack Britain once more. He prepared 45,000 men from all over the Roman Empire, 10,000 animals, and 930 ships. This was larger than Caesar's second invasion. Claudius had sent several important Roman commanders to lead his army, and when they arrived in Kent, nobody stopped them. Apparently, the Britons were very hard to find at first, as they had fled into the marshes and forests when they realised the size of this Roman army. The Romans marched inland to Canterbury, where the local tribe quickly surrendered to them. The Romans decided to build a large fort at Canterbury to let all of the Britons know that the Romans were here to stay. Whilst all this was happening, two British brothers were preparing an army to take on the Romans. Togodumnus and Caractacus were Britons who had no interest in being conquered by Rome. They gathered men from all around southern England and built up an army of around 150,000 men. Everyone knew that a battle would be happening soon. 150,000 Britons versus 45,000 Romans. The Romans were going to be massively outnumbered. Togodumnus and Caractacus took the British army to the River Medway and awaited battle. The Romans, eager for a victory over the Britons, who they had so far struggled to find, marched towards the river in several different groups. 34 Roman coins dating from this time were found in the village of Bredgar, just a day's march away from the battle site at the Medway River. The amount of money is about the same as a Roman soldier's life savings, so it is believed that a Roman soldier buried them there, knowing that he was going into a dangerous battle the next day. I wonder if he survived, but just forgot where he buried them. Anyway, When the Romans arrived at the Medway River, they were met by a massive British tribal army who were waiting for them on the other side of the river. The Britons used chariots pulled by horses, and they were an important part of their army. Amazingly, the Romans swam across the river in full armour and sneaked up on the horses. Sadly, they killed the horses, which meant that the British had no chariots. The British lost their confidence, and the battle had only just begun. The remaining Romans crossed the river, and the fighting continued for 2 whole days. Eventually, the Romans were victorious, and they had won one of the most important battles in British history. Shortly after this, the Roman Emperor arrived in Britain with another elephant. 11 British kings surrendered to him, and they all agreed to be part of the Roman Empire. Britain was now officially part of the Roman Empire. Sadly, Togodumnus, one of the British brothers, was killed from his wounds from the battle at the River Medway. His brother, Caractacus, took the survivors from the battle and spent the next 10 years fighting the Romans in Britain. Eventually, he was captured and sent to Rome to be killed. When he arrived, he was put in front of the emperor and gave a speech so moving and so powerful that he was allowed to live out his life in Rome. After seeing all of the amazing buildings in Rome, he famously said, "When you all have such lovely possessions, and so many of them, how can you want to take our poor huts?" So, our weekly activities. For Monday's activity, I would like you to create a speech or write a speech as if you were a captured Briton. You don't have to write it as if you were Caractacus. You could write it as if you were yourself captured by the Romans and you're a Briton. Have fun with those. Have fun with those speeches, and when you've finished it, by all means, do your speech to the members of your household, which would be really awesome. For Tuesday's activity, I would like you to create a mind map that shows and explains the emotions that you would have if you were a Roman soldier. There's a YouTube video for you to watch that might provide a little bit of inspiration into this, and it goes through the life of a Roman soldier and some of the things that happened to this particular soldier in the video. So have a little watch of that, because at first, the idea of being a Roman soldier might sound quite cool and exciting, but would it really be? Would that life be that great? Think carefully. Create your lovely mind map with a picture of you in the centre as a Roman soldier, and then with some thoughts and emotions, some nice sentences that explain your emotions and thoughts around the outside of the picture. For Wednesday's activity, Operation Codebreaker Times Tables Challenges. I've got some sheets with times tables questions on, and when you answer the times tables question, you are able to break code and discover a secret message. It should be really fun. After you've had a go at those, there's some 4 operations questions to keep your skills sharp. Thursday's activity, create a Roman shield. I've got some YouTube videos, or some links to YouTube videos on the website for you to watch. If you want to, you can also create, or instead of, create a Celtic shield with different designs and more of a circular shape rather than the square shape. So I say create a Roman shield, it's more of creating a Roman scutum, which was the square-shaped shields that the Romans used. Have a go at those. There are different ways of making the shield, and a couple of those videos explain the different methods. So, each video explains a different method. Have a look at those. For Friday's activity, conduct an interview with one of your family members as if they were one of the famous Roman emperors. They could either be Caesar or Caligula, who collected the seashells, or they could be Claudius, who was the Roman emperor who finally did conquer Britain. Before you start your interview, you want to come up with your questions so you know what you're going to say. You want to go into your interview knowing what you're going to say. So sit down, write out your questions, and on the Russet website there are some hints and tips of how to write your questions and things to think about to help you write good questions. Enjoy the week. As always, if you've got anything you want to send me, or your parents want to have a chat about any of the work particularly, or if you you want to get your parents to send me a message, by all means feel able to do so, guys. Have a lovely week. See you soon. Bye bye.